Welcome back to the ID Race channel. Really appreciate you guys for tuning in. I know that this episode has been a long time coming, a few days. Well, it was rough. This past week, I'm not even gonna lie. It took a lot out of me, and also my co-pilot Mike took a lot out of him. Really stresses your friend, family relationship. I mean, you can pick your friends, you can't pick your family. Well, guess what? He's married into me, so he's my bro. Love him to death, and he has to just put up with my shenanigans. And to start, I have to praise him. Like, he is amazing. He has done an incredible amount of work and effort to this channel behind the scenes and at these events. He definitely makes it where I wouldn't be able to do this without him, and the gravity of what we went through would not be able to be accomplished without him. So definitely, your hard work does not go unnoticed. Really appreciate you. You're my boy, Mike. Let's get into it. So without further ado, here's your intro. We are speed and professionals in aeromatics. To recap everything that happened, starting at the event, the first time the car ever made a pass, I hit the wall. Truth be told, I had a line lock on the steering wheel, and with that, I was planning on just bumping the car in and staging it and just doing a clutch slip. Well, when I bumped in with the line lock and I released it, it was actually still depressed. So with that, it was not a monetary switch. It was like an on, and you click it, and then an off, and you have to click it. Well, it was still on. Drop the clutch, let off the button, car just starts skidding, slam on the brakes, still skidding, car darts to the right, hits the wall. When that happened, I turned the car off, all the power off. That automatically turned the button off and turned the car back on. No pressure on the front brakes. Car rolls backwards. Pit crew pushes the car back, and you guys can see in this video what happened. So that was to start our actual first pass of the week. And I will tell you right now, my nerves were already shook, and the car drove straight, had a little crook in the steering wheel, just one direction, which it is what it is. It's a race car, right? So a little scuff on the fender, wheel had some curb rash. Nothing really felt out of the ordinary driving it. So I was like, you know what? Shake the nerves, get the sucker right back in the line again. Let's make a hit. So all I wanted to do was a 60 foot. Went up, did a 60 foot, car went 1.4 60 foot. I was like, this is insane. This thing was like set up perfect. We can just dial in from here. Went up again, went to a 1.6 60 foot. Then it went to a 1.8 60 foot. And I was just like, this is weird. So I was like, you know what? Let's just try to slip the clutch. Didn't try to do any launch control two-step. Just slipped the clutch out. Did like a 1.8 60 foot again and just put the power in it to the end. Went 146 at 9.9. I told Mike and everybody there, I was like, if this car goes a 9, anything, 9.9999, we're packing up, we're leaving. So car did it on the first full pass, did a 9.9, no issues. The logs showed like a weird EGT thing, as well as, what else was it? Oh, oscillation in the boost controller. So the map sensor is reading like it was trying to do too much with the boost controller, or it would overshoot and then it would catch up and then like just start oscillating the boost map on the top all the way through third and fourth gear. So it's like, okay, well, we got to figure that out anyways. Let's not waste the next passes on the car and let's just get on the road, head to Byron. So we go to Byron. With that, we had to make a makeshift fuel system, which check that out. Very, very unique fuel cell, obviously. Made it on the trailer. Thanks, shout out to my boys at Red Horse Performance Fittings. Those guys hooked it up. Great group of guys that showed up to the event. There was a lot of there was a lot of vendor trailers there. Mickey Thompson, Red Horse Performance Fittings, Summit, VP, who was the other ones? Oh, Strange Engineering. There was just a lot of different vendors that actually came to the event to help sponsor the event. Gear vendors, and then Motion Raceworks. Can't forget my boys. But all those different trailers had all these parts, so they were at our disposal. Made a fuel system and worked perfect, so that was great. A couple of union fittings, some dash 10 lines, return feed lines to our electric pump. We were on the road, so headed to Byron, no issues. Went through and what was the other thing? Relying a lot on the logs of the car to be able to make sure everything was good, tip-top shape, and found out no issues. We were happy with that. Went to Byron. Got there and made our first pass. It ran 10-1. With that pass at 10-1, we were like, it's still getting this weird oscillation on the top. It's not able to get the full boost. It would like go up to 26, 21, 26, 22, 26, 19. It would do this weird thing, and we were asking for 28, and it was like trying to hit it, but then it was like, whoa, we're way overshooting the target, or we're about to, because it was just ramping up too fast, pulled a bunch out. So with that, we looked, and there was a kinked vacuum line off the map sensor that basically it's a vacuum block on the car, and it runs like all of our vacuum blow-off valve, boost controller, the map sensor, the main feed line in the fuel pressure regulator. Well, the fuel pressure regulator is a dash 90. The dash 90 was, so you have the map sensor that comes straight out. Then you have a dash 90, that comes out, and that dash 90 was kinked over on top of our map sensor right at the fitting, pinching it off. That was a problem. So fix that, and then we're going to go back in lines again at that point in time in Byron. So go back up in line, and rained out. So that's one thing that you guys didn't know, is we were ready to go make a full boost pass at Byron. Like that was our main first attempt at actually being able to run the car. So rained out, you guys know that. Track got canceled. All of our passes didn't count. No big deal. It was only a 10.1 anyways. Wasn't the end of the world. So we packed up, left, headed to Great Lakes Dragway. So issue with the pinched map sensor, that was fixed. We had a plan to really turn up the car and basically work the 4-link, talk to our boy Richard Brown over at Racecraft. Those guys are great. Richard's all like, hey, you need to do this, this, and this to start off with your settings from where you guys are at. I think this would be a great place to be. So we took those settings that he recommended, went in, adjusted the rebound compression on the AFCOs that we have in the car, and verified tire pressure. So that was another big thing. And it was decided at Byron, because we were all like, hey, instead of easing into it and using the line lock, switched it from a basically a solid state button to a monetary switch button, to say we're going to hook that into the launch control and have that be our 2-step. So anytime I hit the button, not only engages the line lock, but it also engages the launch control for the 2-step of the car. And then when I release it, it releases the line lock and also the two-step, same time, turns on off. So we're like, instead of us fumble effing around and doing one step at a time, we're all like, let's just do it all so we can see how the car reacts and just quit playing around. So that's what we did. So when we went to Great Lakes Dragway and the information that we had from Byron, also again, EGTs at Byron, one EGT, fully solid state all the way up, nice curve. Rotor one was like solid curve and then boom, drop out, kick back in, drop out. It was like just like the side, like looked like Jaws, like the straight up down angles that it was taking. It was like, oh, that EGT's trash. So reached out to our boy Izzy Gonzalez. He actually was meeting us at Great Lakes Dragway. He's like, hey, let me see if I can look around and try to find one. I'll post it on the local social media, Facebook, just to see if anybody has one that we can get. Sal at Elite Rotary, he actually either reached out to Izzy or Izzy reached out to Sal, whatever it was, but they communicated. Sal calls me. He's like, hey, here, you need these. I want you to be able to finish your event. Really like what you're doing. And he literally gave Izzy, Izzy met Sal, gave him 2 brand new EGTs and gave them to me so that Izzy could meet me at the track at Great Lakes Dragway the next day, that next morning. So as a matter of fact, Izzy met me at the hotel. So we all met at the hotel that we were at, left from there, and actually all drove together as a group to Great Lakes Dragway, which was a lot of fun. And then, so we got there, switched out the EGTs, and set up the two-step at 6,500 RPM, and also the line lock, got that resituated again. So we have all that set up, and then went up to make a pass. This is that pass right now. All right, Mike. So today we have Grove. What is this? Union Grove? Yeah. Great Lakes Dragway. It's actually a really interesting track. It's like grandstanded up in front of the spectators, and then like you drive around after the pass in front of the entire grandstands, which will be pretty sweet. Where you get your slip? Yeah, it's where you get your slip. So I think that's going to be really cool for the crowd to see. We have changed the tire pressure, as well as I set up the line lock to be also activating the two-step, which we're going to see. The LED light does work, so it's definitely giving 12 volts to that, which then also should translate to giving 12 volts to our signal for our launch control to activate. And we should hear some pops when we get that sucker up on a two-step launch. Also, we changed around tire pressure. What did we set them at? So we got 19 PSI in the radial to see if it'll basically strike the tire harder. And we're just going to get up here and make a pass. They've called us the lanes, radial A, B class. We're up. And that, unfortunately, was the only pass that we made at Great Lakes Dragway. So, as you can tell, the car leaves, and the two-step's working. So, two-step hits off the line. Car, it's banging, popping. It, off the log, was only making about 6 pounds, 5 pounds of boost. Really wasn't making a whole ton of boost at 6,500 RPM. Bogs off the line, and it didn't die. So I was just like, well, I'll just ramp it out and just run it down the track just to make sure that our boost that we fixed with the pinch line isn't oscillating anymore. So I literally just ramp it up in first, grab second gear like I normally would, nothing crazy, nothing special, just grab second gear, and bang, car just darts hard to the right, and like all of a sudden it just goes, and I could just hear this violent noise in the back, and I just push the clutch in, still the same sound. try to put it back in gear, still the same sound. And it was going off of speed. It wasn't going off RPM of the car, nothing. And I was like, oh my God, I just broke the rear end of the car. Like, I knew it instantly, like I broke the rear. And I was like, I have no idea how I'm gonna fix this. So anyways, it's just clank, clank, clank as I'm driving slow, you know, and get back up. And there was a ton of people at Great Lakes Dragway. I'm talking thousands. Like, there was probably like at least 3,000 people at that drag strip. Maybe more. There could have been more. But I know even on the live stream, there's tons of people, like probably 5,000 to 6,000 people on live stream. So it's just like, so I was like, I got to do something cool. So as we're driving by, and it's cool because the pit side road at Byron, or I'm sorry, Great Lakes Dragway, you drive right by the grandstands to go get your time slip. And it was like a horrible time slip anyways, like a 17-second pass. And I just start revving the car out because I knew it was nice and hot and warm, and that exhaust just shoot a fireball. Even during daylight, you could see that thing and hear it. And it was just like, wow, poo! You could feel the pulse coming off the exhaust, and the entire crowd was loving it. So at least we put on a little bit of a show there. It was fun. So at the same time, the car is like driving like bang, 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 bang. And I'm just revving the shit out of it. Whatever. So grab our time slip. Mike's sitting there. He's just like, you okay? I was like, we're bad. We're done. He's like, shit. So bring her back to the pits. And I told him, I was like, yeah, something's broken the rear. Let's just take off the rear diff cover. We're probably gonna have to pull axles, figure out what's going on. Let's just get the cover off and see what actually broke. So here is what actually broke. All right. So we broke some shit. As you can see in there, the tooth has exited the chat on the third member for the ring and pinion. So we are going to go to Strange Engineering and see what they can do for us, because obviously we did launch the car on radials, but literally one launch on radials and it breaks that does not make sense to me. Something's going on here. So it was a soft launch. It didn't even 60 foot. It was this first to second gear hit that did it, and it literally just shattered that. So that does not put confidence to me that these are any good. As you can see, it was not good. So with the ring and pinion completely, pieced out, we went to Strange Engineering first. Strange Engineering didn't bring any parts with them that we could purchase. We could have went to Strange, which is like an hour drive, or Uber parts back. I don't get what their idea was with this, but we could Uber parts back. Otherwise, I could do a parts call up at the tower. So I went up to the tower and I just said, hey, racer in need. I'm the RX-7. I need anybody that has a ring and pinion with a 430 or a 410. I don't care what it is. Something Ford 88 that could get me on the road. So they put the parts call out, and literally 5 minutes later, I heard it over the announcements that racer in need, just so happens, Mike Janusik, or however the hell you pronounce my last name, that we have your parts, and somebody's going to be reaching out to you. We gave them your phone number, and they're going to call you. So I wasn't even that far from the race tower, and I was like, well, if he just announced that, whoever is the gentleman that said that he has my parts has to be within that vicinity, I'm going to find him before he even calls me. So I just start taking a little scooter around, and I'm all like, oh, that's a little piece of paper that I made, like, with my information on it. That's the guy. So I went up to him, and I was like, hey, do you got a Ford 88? He's like, oh, yeah, I do. And he looks, he's like, are you Mike? And I was like, as a matter of fact, I am. I was like, what do you got? So we started talking. His name's Craig, super good guy. He's like, well, yeah. He's like, I do Ford 88 stuff in my my Ford Ranger, and just so happens I got 410 gear at my house. Would that help you? And I was like, heck yeah, dude. And he's like, well, I'll meet you over at your pit. So he met us over at the pit, and he's like, so how are we going to do this? And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, and he's done, truth be told, I didn't build the rear end in this car. I sent it to Racecraft. I gave them a bunch of parts, and I was like, here, assemble this. Well, the ring and pinion and all that stuff was out of a Motive gear set. It wasn't a factory OEM or a Strange gear set. My bad if I may have alluded to that, but it was a Motive gear set that I bought secondhand from somebody else that did circle track stuff. And it was a 430 gear. And he's all like, well, I have 410s. All of the shims and everything aren't going to work. And I was like, well, as long as they're close, doesn't matter. And he's like, as a matter of fact, it does. And this man, Craig, he is a matter of fact. So you do not tell him. He's like, well, so he's like, I'll bring what I got. You guys get the rear end out and we'll go from there. And so anyways, me and Mike thrashed, get the rear end out, or not just the ring and pinion, knock the yoke out, or the pinion out. And not to mention, an inch and a 16 socket at a racetrack, good luck finding one. Like, that is difficult shit to find. So I'll tell you what, it's never a good day when you have to go to the racetrack and find an inch and 16 socket that nobody has, because these type of problems and breaking a ring and pinion are not as common as you would think. But normally when you break a ring and pinion, you go home and you fix it in your garage. Guess what? That's not happening here today. We got everything tore apart. We're gonna get this thing apart. We found a ring set. So right now we got a guy going grabbing some parts, bringing them back to the track, and we're gonna get this thing installed. So off we go. But we all managed. So that was a good thing. And then once we got it out, we also had to swap the bearing from one pinion to the other one with all the spacers and the shims to hold the depth of what that bearing and all that stuff is. It's all machined from Ford, but it's a little bit different variants from one to another, so we had to use the same stuff. So with that, Craig brought the bearing puller, which we just kind of tapped out with a hammer with the bearing puller on it. But to get back on, I had to hammer that shit back on.
That's actually not a bad idea. Does Cletus's run count or not? Again, I already
Almost there.
The 687 and 216 did have a...
So in the end, yes, it did work out. I got it back on, set it up, and the first time we popped it in there with the shims that we had for the 430s, not even close. It was like 40 thousandths frickin' on a dial indicator for the actual backlash. It was bad. It was like, yeah, that's not going to work. And Craig's like, yeah, you're just going to break it instantly if you use that. So then he's like, oh, I got these other shims in this box of, shims that he brought with. He's like, let's try these. He's like, what's the difference and what's the thickness of that? And we did some simple math, plus minus little division. It was good. So we got that all figured out, put them back in, and then measured again. Got closer. It was like 20 thousandths. And then we were like, okay, pull it back out again. Swap the two shims around. Got it closer to the ring and pinion. Boom, 12 thousandths. Craig, he said, I'm happy with that. And I was like, well, if you're happy with that, I'm going to be freaking stoked. So we got her in, and check out the backlash. Just the actual, I shouldn't say the backlash, just the actual pattern from the paint. Like I was just dumbfounded and shocked that it worked. All right, boys and girls, we got a gear set in. Sorry if my camera is all foggy because it's got gear oil all over it, but the pattern looks great. Coast side, actually this is the coast side, drive side, everything looks good. So we are going to buck it like this. Mike, he's putting in the axles. Let's get this thing back on the road. Did not get a good pass in today. Ended up having to hand in a 17-second pass, but we did get a rear end basically completely rebuilt with a 410 Ford gear, OEM Ford performance gear, so that one should last us. That's what I'm told. Those are the best ones to get, so that's what we got. But Mike is ready to go. Car's completely changed over. We haven't even drove it yet with the new gear set, so we're gonna see how it goes. But we got to hit our checkpoints before we can get to the hotel, and it's off to day 4 for sick summer 2023. So let's get to it. And they're, and be told, some track fixes are better than others. So from Great Lakes Dragway, met a great guy, Craig, who really helped us out, racer in need. And Izzy and his buddy are still there with us. And they're like, so do you guys want to just have us follow you to a couple of checkpoints just to make sure everything's good? And we're like, yeah, sure. Let's just do that. We'll take it easy, see how everything pans out, everything works, and you guys can more than welcome to follow some checkpoints. So we leave Great Lakes Dragway on a 17-second pass. Didn't have anything else to hand in. Couldn't make another pass because it was too late in the day to go again. So with that, started driving. Made it like, I'd say 10 miles, 15 miles, and car starts getting hot and getting so hot, like I start seeing steam out of the hood, and I have not seen this out of this car ever. Well, I shouldn't say ever in the 200 miles that we drove it, but didn't ever see that throughout that time. And it was like quick, like just instant. So I was like, what the heck's going on? So we pull over and you can barely hear the electric water pump, like nothing. Pull open the log, the car's kind of running crap, and it said max water temp, max oil temp on the ECU, which is like over 235 degrees on both, to be able to max those out for when it tells you on the ECU when it's basically ready to shut the car off for like an engine protection. I was like, well, that's weird. So we basically tried to go through. I was like, maybe there's an air bubble in the system or an air pocket or something, or like the water pump died, the electric water pump. But it was like so much pressure in the water system that it couldn't even spin the pump, or like it was cavitated. I don't know, but it wasn't happy. So we swapped out both of the coolant for the water cooling system, and for the liquid air intercooler, I got the exact same pumps just in case, for the simple reason, if one were to die, I could always resort to the other and just flip-flop them, swap them, or whatever, just to make it. So we let everything cool down, flip-flop the pumps, and the one pump just started working like perfect, like, or the liquid air intercooler pump on the water side was like perfect. Like it was like just rushing water, like sounded normal. Like I was like, wow, maybe that thing was dying for a while. So we let that thing run, turned on the car, ran the car, and it just kept on like champagne bubbles out of the bleeder of the funnel. So it was just like little bubbles coming up, and I was like, that's not good. So for rotary, just like on a piston engine, you have like a head gasket. On rotaries are like these rubber seals that basically separate the combustion from the coolant, and also the oil system underneath the pan of the car. Just kind of keeps everything separated. On a rotary, they're like basically rubber, we'll just call it. The inners are like a Teflon with like a different type of material, and then the outer is like a more of a Viton material. But anyway, so the inner is kind of like your most important one to separate the combustion. And what I was seeing with those champagne bubbles coming out was more or less of like exhaust pressure from compression forcing its way through into the coolant system. And with that, you have to rebuild the engine. You can't like fix it, of like just add something to the coolant or whatever and it'll seal it, like it'll suck it in there and it'll seal that up. No, you have to pull the engine, replace the seal, the O-ring that's in there that separates it. So Izzy, fine gentleman that he is, looks at me and he's like, I know somebody that has those seals. Like I could make a couple calls and I guarantee I could find somebody that's got those. He makes like 2 calls. He finds this guy, Matt. And Matt is like in Milwaukee. We're in like Racine, Wisconsin or something like that. And he's like, yeah, I got him. I'll bring him there. He's like, I was just there today. Like, I'll go. And he loves the car. He loves our channel. He loves what we do. And he's a super cool guy. And he's like, yeah, I'll meet you guys. So the guy literally is down to help us out. Izzy, he's already like, yeah, we can get you the parts. You can come to my house. I got a shop. You guys can use it. If you guys want to do this, we'll do it with you. And I look over at my co-pilot, Mike, and I'm like, dude, this is, if you don't want to do it, I won't do it. But if we're going to do it, we all got to be on the same page. He's like, yeah, let's do it. It's like, all right, we're doing it then. So literally, we limped the car to Izzy's house. Got there like 9:30. Everybody's ordering pizza. We're jacking the car up. His son was there and his wife, and his son loves rotaries, so we're revving it. When we got there, it was like 9:30, way past his kid's bedtime, but he loved it. So we get there 9:30 at night and literally thrashed, tore the engine down, found that it was the front exhaust side of the motor. So front rotor, front cast iron, exhaust side, basically burned a little hard spot in the Teflon, the O-ring, where coolant was basically burning through. You could see like a dark spot in it, kind of like a head gasket where you see a dark spot, where the exhaust is blowing by and burning that open. So, replaced the O-rings, didn't change anything else in the engine, put it back together, fire it back up, fill it with coolant, obviously, and oil, all that good jazz, and had that thing back running at 3 a.m. in the morning. So from 9:30 to 3 a.m., running, driving, backed out of Izzy's driveway, hooked up to the trailer, let's get on the road. Well, we get like not even... And we haven't even tested to see if the water temp's down or any of that type of stuff. Well, because the motor got so hot during that time, and this is all stuff that was not recorded. So I don't have any footage of this because this is like 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm exhausted, Mike's exhausted. All we're trying to do is just get to the checkpoints, or at least to like get to our hotel to check in at like 5 o'clock in the morning to sleep for an hour and shower and get to the track. Didn't happen. So we literally start overheating again. But it's not the coolant this time. It's just the oil. Coolant's fine. Coolant's at like 190. Most got up to like 195. Oil's getting up to like 230, 220. I'm like, dude, something's wrong. Like something is not right. Like we got to pull over. And Mike's like, oh, fuck my life. Like, I just want to get somewhere. And I hear you. I understand his frustration because he's like, I hate this. I'd rather be at home, like painting a wall at my house. He just bought a brand new house, blah, blah. Like, it's like, I get his frustration. It's like, I don't want to be here either, man. Like, I don't want to be doing this at all. And so we get to, I don't know, some dirt hole, whatever, storage unit facility just pulling that has some light, and we're trying to diagnose why our oil system is not cooling down. Well, get out of the car, oil lines on the engine and everything hot, oil coolers not hot, oil coolers air temp cold, like not even hot at all. Like this is messed up. Like there's something going on. We're not getting any oil circulation to the oil coolers. The only thing that stops it is we have a Earl's thermal bypass. Basically, it's a Earl's oil cooler thermal bypass. So it's got a thermostat in it. Well, when we overheated it the first time, there's a thermal pellet that has wax in it that basically, once it expands, it pushes up like this little needle. Well, what had to have happened when it got so hot, all that wax melted and pushed out, like just spewed out of it. And that thermal pellet just didn't have enough oomph to open back up again. So on default, we could say those Earl's thermal pellets are defaulted to be closed. So all it's doing is just pushing the oil from the pump and then looping it back to the engine. It's not feeding it through the oil coolers. It's waiting until it gets warm. It's supposed to open that thermal pellet up and then start feeding it to the oil coolers to start basically heating the oil up at an even temperature versus getting it where it's cold and then it's, circulating through and taking forever for the oil to heat up. It's a large system. It's like 7 quarts of oil, 8 quarts of oil. Either way. So only way to bypass that, unfortunately, is to, and I know this video is getting long, and I'm sorry, you guys can hate me for this, but you guys got to understand the shit we went through. The only way to bypass that is to take 2 -10 unions, take that Earl's thermostat out, and then just basically run the line straight together, in, out to the oil coolers, bypass the thermostat. Only unions I had was on our fuel system, on our race tank. Basically, I had to take those off, cap the ends, and then only use our race system, not our street system, for fuel. What does that mean? I didn't use the electric pump, can't use it. I can only use the mechanical belt-driven fuel pump that we use for racing and a 2.5-gallon fuel cell. So that decision was made that we are just going to fill up our regular jugs and we will basically just fill our race tank however many times that we have to and how often that we have to, and see how long a belt-driven mechanical fuel pump will last on going from Great Lakes Dragway to Tri-State Dragway, which is like 130 miles. So let's do it, right? Giddy up. So we did that and started driving. Legitimately made a 4.5-hour drive, 3.5-hour drive into 8 hours of a drive by doing that. So we went literally every 13 to 22 miles, depending on if it was uphill or if we were flatland or in traffic or not in traffic or on side streets. That was all dependent because that's as far as we could go on 2.5 gallons. It's either 13 miles or I think the most we got out of that was 22 miles. So about 10 miles to a gallon, maybe a little bit less depending on what we were driving in, but that mechanical fuel pump would just frickin' feed the fuel that did not need to. So we were running rich and everything. It was just a bad ordeal. Mike hated life. I hated life. It was not fun. But we had to make Tri-State. So we make it to Tri-State. With that, yeah, I'm trying to think if I missed anything from that point. Yeah, no, that's about it. So we get to Tri-State and needed to get to Red Horse, needed to get to VP Fuels, needed to get things squared away so that we actually had stuff set up for the rest of the event, because after Tri-State was Cordova, that was our last day. And there's no filming. I didn't record anything up until this point, through this point at all. And I'm exhausted. Mike's exhausted. We get there, and it's 11:30 in the afternoon, or late morning, early afternoon, and we have to change the car over. And I told Mike I can barely even walk. I can barely see. I've been up since 6 o'clock the night before, or the morning before. And right now we're going on 29 hours of no sleep. So we go 29 hours no sleep. And I was like, I don't think I can even make a pass without sleeping. And I know that we don't have time. And I know that he didn't want to. It was 80 degrees outside. There's no way I'm falling asleep in the heat and everything else. No AC. Our hotel for the next day, we didn't get to go to our hotel. The hotel the next day, another 100 miles away. We got to go all the way back to Cordova to get to our hotel if we want to do anything. So I told Mike, I was like, I'll do like a 1-2, maybe a 3-gear shift, and then like this track isn't even that great to go all the way through to the end. Like, we'll just make an easy pass, literally change the car over, pack it up, let's go. He's like, whatever you want to do. I knew he was irritated. He didn't want to do that, but I knew that that was our safest option at that point in time. Not to kill myself, the car, risk just putting something into the wall for no reason. So I was like, let's just make an easy pass. Let's just pack it up and go. So we did that. 1-2 shift, ran like a 12 something. And changed the car over, headed to the events, all that kind of stuff, for where everybody else is going. Even on the road, on our way, like ended up like a wire came off the alternator, like just stupid stuff that was happening. And then we have to diagnose it. We have no sleep. So like the easiest things that anybody could figure out that is somewhat mechanically inclined can chase a wire took us, or myself, 30, 45 minutes longer than it should have. Like just easy stuff. And that's what happens when you get sleep deprived on these. My allergies still haven't even cleared up, but my allergies were killing me through this event on like day 3, 4, and 5, obviously, because they're still getting better at this point in time. And a lot of going through and even thinking back in my mind of like, God, you should have just done it this way or done it that way. Well, I mean, time is time and you can't get it back. Once it's gone, time is time. Yeah, it's gone. So I've realized that in drag and drive racing, we can all look to say, oh yeah, you know, you have a 7-second car, a 8-second car, a 9-second car, 10-second car, 12-second car, whatever you have. The one thing that we all only have is 24 hours in a day, and you have 5 days, and that's it. So whatever you do with those 24 hours, that's on you. And how you spend it is also on you. Whether you enjoy it or you're working on your stuff and it's not as enjoyable, when you look back on it, you may second guess how you spent your time. That's all you can do is second guess how you spent your time. Nothing else matters but time. So my only advice, time is of the essence in drag and drive. So anyways, back on the road, hit all of our checkpoints, get to our hotel. Next day at Cordova, I'm feeling much better. So we got to the hotel at like 10 o'clock, got to eat, all that good stuff, and woke up in the morning at like, we didn't even have to be at the track till like 11 a.m. And I was up at like 5:36, like just pacing. Like, I gotta figure this out. I gotta get it right. So to start the day, we got to the track, changed over the car. This is what we did. First pass.
At 146. Let's go.
Off that first pass, I couldn't have been happier to know that what the efforts, the suspension changes, the launch control, the two-step, all that stuff, like all these changes that we made really made a difference, which if we would have been able to put those things together earlier, sooner, and not having all these other issues that became overwhelming throughout the week, we could have put together into a much better week, we'll just say. But it is what it is. So we were really happy with that. 9.5 right out of the box, right when we got to Cordova. Everything felt great in the car. We turned it around, looked at the logs. We're like, okay, we can turn it up. So let's just turn it up. So we went from 28 to 30 on boost pressure. And then we're like, all right, let's try that. And this is what it did.
935 at 146.
So then going back to what that did, so 2 pounds of boost, 28 to 30, equaled 2/10 on our ET, which was almost identical on the 60-foot. Really no change there. We're like, wow, if that did that, let's go up 3 more pounds of boost. Let's see what that'll do. So we were really stoked to do that, but looking through the logs, it actually pulled some of the boost out at the end of the run. So it went from 30, it went down to 26 because it saw a oil pressure spike. So it went like from 80 to 90 pounds of oil pressure, like 140. Why? Because it was pushing all that oil back in the baffling, and it was basically sucking up bubbles or air pockets. And that air pressurizing and the heat of the engine was basically expanding, creating a pressure spike in our oil pressure. So it was still getting oil, but it was getting aerations of air in there. Thankfully, we use VP1, so that's not an issue. But I was like, well, let's throw another quart of oil in there. Not thinking of what could potentially happen, which did happen. Never drain the catch can. So with the catch can, it's filled with like ethanol, moisture, water, oil residue, all that. She was full. Never emptied it. And when we put the extra quart of oil in it and that extra boost in it, she spit everywhere. And then this is what it did. Thankfully, I was able to save the car. I did not need a new pair of underwear. I knew exactly what happened. I either got oil over a tire or something. Didn't know why or what. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to turn the car around real quick and meet Mike in the staging lanes. He'll just bring the fuel. We'll refuel it. I didn't go crazy off the hit. Didn't have to pull parachutes. We had one more pass attempt left. Got back in the staging lanes and opened the hood. Oil everywhere. So it basically, catch can was full, and on that pass, when it got squirrely and darted around a little bit, it basically was blowing oil, water, whatever, through there, got on the front tire. Thankfully, nothing bad happened, but that was the end of it. Now, that was my 6th summer 2023 experience. You guys were there with me. That was the full story. The part from Byron when we left, actually the entire story, Cordova, the whole deal, but Byron from when we stopped actually being able to film till Cordova, when we actually were trying to make some content, but we're so exhausted, and the highs and lows. Like, I honestly wish I would have filmed the end of when me and Mike actually made the 930 pass. Like, that was like exhilarating, and I'm curious to see. I just want to look at a time slip real quick. So I just had to verify. So the personal best that we ever did, and this isn't like all earth-shattering, but 936 at 147 in the convertible. So that was the fastest pass that the convertible ever made. 934 in the new chassis at 146. Now it was pulling boost out in that last pass, and definitely has a lot more potential in it. Like, we aren't even tickling the surface of the new car. But out of this event, we did manage 360 foots. We did manage a 146 mile an hour pass, which I believe was the fastest mile an hour that we made of the week for ourselves. And then we did our personal best ever. I've never went faster than a 934. So there was some accomplishments, don't get me wrong, as well as we did figure out the two-step and the launch control of the car, which during the day doesn't really seem like much. You really can't tell. But at night, now that's a different story. Now all I need to do is find some tracks that are open late to light some candles, because wow, that two-step is insane in this car. I love it, especially like just coming out the bottom of the car, and it's pretty cool. So definitely looking forward to that going on in the future. But yeah, you guys, I'm not sure what's next. I'm not sure which event's next. I got a lot of work to do here at home. There's a few customer cars I want to work on that I really want to show priority to. So we're probably going to put my stuff on hold for a little bit, which is fine. Literally, I don't even think I want to look at that car for like another week. I haven't even took it out of the trailer, so it doesn't deserve it yet. But really appreciate you guys following along. Subscribe. Love it. Hopefully this gives you guys all the insight that you wanted to know. It was almost like hopefully having just a conversation with me and what happened over the week. But truly love that you guys gave the support of the RX-7 Rotary. We were holding it down for the community. Everybody that was at Six Summer, if you watch this video, whoever I met, shook hands with, talked to, you guys are great. Like, it was a really good time, and can't wait till the next one. So thank you all. We'll see you in the next one. Look at this RX-7 belt buckle. Granted, it's reversed for you, but it's not for me. But dude just gave me a belt buckle. Sorry. Got that two-wheel action. There you go.
Work on it.
Work on it. There you go. You got a little bit of a hill. What do you think?
Oh, it's so easy to drive. Barely a drag car. It's a street car.
It's a street car.
Street car.
I can't see the red dot if you're recording or not. Yeah, now you're recording.
All right, then look at me.
Oh, so now we got to start this whole conversation all over again because you can't hit the record button.
Yeah, I know it's.
I'm doing great.
Hell.
Hey, you know what? I'll use point. We're just waiting for a little cleanup on the track, and